And we want to welcome you to Pop Talk, which is our bi-monthly show. And I can't believe it's our 10th meeting already. And we've had about almost 20,000 people reached with this show. So thank you so much for watching, and we really appreciate you so much. We've got a great show today. Not only are we going to eat in front of you, I hope you don't mind, we're going to talk about some of our special dishes that we absolutely love, but we're also going to talk about thankfulness. But even more importantly, we're going to be interviewing a good friend of mine, Sonny Gann, and we're going to introduce him in just a minute. And we're going to be discussing how to get along with family members who might be a little bit more difficult than some of the others. I know we all have them, right? So we'll just discuss that and discuss the best way to handle it. But before we introduce our guest, I want to introduce our team. To my left is Dr. Lynnette Simm. She's our creative director, and of course you've probably read some of her blogs. She had a fabulous blog this week. It was just incredible. And she's the author of And the Day Came, and you're going to be hearing from her in this show. To my right, my immediate right, is Alma Hall. She helps us a lot with our marketing, especially for our Level Up events. And Alma's a foodie, so I'm anxious to see what she thinks of some of these things that we have brought to eat. I just will say I did not cook this, okay? And if you like it, then I'll tell you where it came from. All right, so we're glad to have you here, Alma, and Rosemary Legrand, who is our communications director, also a co-founder of the Christian Literary Awards, which are coming up December 7th. So it's amazing that she's here right now, because I know she's got a lot of details on her mind at this time. And she's also a radio show co-host. And Rosemary, it's so good to have you back from Lubbock, Texas, where you spoke yesterday. And so good to have you. I'm glad you got here safely.
Indeed,
okay.
indeed.
But now, first of all, we're just ordinary girls who God turned into pearls, and we're just ordinary girls doing this show. So just like anybody else, so we're just so thankful to have the opportunity. But we want to introduce our guest. It's Sonny Gann. Sonny and I go back. We actually have been at two same churches. Like we were at a different church. And he moved first, or I say he led the way, and now he's at the. We're both at the same church again. And Sonny is the author of a book called Him Possible. But he also has a master's degree in counseling, and that's why he's here today, because he's going to give us some professional advice about how to deal with difficult family members. He's been married to Patty for 38 years, and there's another connection there, because Patty at our old church was the women's ministry leader before I was, and she kind of did the hand off of the baton to me, and I took over women's ministry for about 4 years at that church. And he has two daughters, Melissa and Rhonda. So Sonny, we are just so glad you are here today. And by the way, I want everyone to feel comfortable with just grabbing the food. We've got turkey and green bean casserole and a great potato dish from Lynnette, and my mother-in-law's pumpkin cookies. And I'll explain, there's a story behind that. You know, this is all fun, and we're going to have a good time today, but sometimes Thanksgiving can be rough, can't it? And so, you know, sometimes you have some difficult family members who come, and you get kind of nervous about it, and you have a lot of angst because you don't know how to handle it. We had that in our own family. So, Sonny, if you have that situation, and you know, how do you handle it?
Well, you know, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
I was telling some buddies about that I was going to be doing this, and they said, "Well, who's going to be on the panel with you?" And I said, "Well, it's me and four ladies." And they said, "Well, so just kind of like outnumbered on Fox." And I was like, "Well, I hadn't thought about that yet, but maybe I don't want to show up." No.
Yeah. Oh no, we're not gonna hurt you. I promise.
No, so,
we're loving ladies.
Yeah. So thank y'all for the invitation to allow me to come into your home, and I'll. Lisa, you didn't know this about me, but I am a self-proclaimed connoisseur of fine Thanksgiving food.
Okay, good.
So I will be doing quality on these, right?
Yes.
So thanks for letting me be here. You know, you made a comment that all families deal with and have that family member that can be a little bit of a challenge. If you were listening to that and you said, well, we don't have a family member in our family that's a challenge, then there's a good chance that you are the family member. Because everybody else is going, yes, we do.
That's scary.
Right? So, but, you know, it's not unique to any family, you know, because if you've got a room full of people, there's a good chance that you've got some different personalities, and golly, this smells good.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, I know, right?
But it'll get you ready for
They
Thanksgiving.
should have never put food in front of me, right?
Thank you so much, Lynnette.
But I think, Lisa, I think one of the keys is the way you worded that question is how do we
Sorry.
prepare for the holiday season ahead of time? What can we do prior to? And I think that's the key, because the holiday doesn't begin the minute people walk in the door. Because I know in our family, Patty, I mean, this is like our favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, and Patty prepares for weeks just for the meal.
Oh, really?
I mean, just to put.
She doesn't stay up until midnight or 2 in the morning the day before and sweat bullets.
Right. So, well, she probably. I go to sleep, so maybe she is. I don't know, right? But there's a preparation just for the meal.
Yeah.
I think if we had that same attitude about preparing for the gathering, you prepare ahead of time, you set expectations, and I think that is the key for us. I'll share a story about setting expectations, because when I grew up in Lubbock, Rosemary, you just came from there. We had Thanksgiving at my grandmother's house at 1 o'clock, and it was a big group, cousins, aunts, uncles, everybody's coming in. And we all know we're going to eat at 1 o'clock. And my grandmother's philosophy is we're going to eat at 1 o'clock, and if you're there, great. There'll be a plate for you. If you come in late, it's your loss.
Right.
The rolls are gone, So.
Right.
But there never was any anxiety about it. You just ate at 1 o'clock, and if you got there late, you got there late. This is where the family dynamic gets a little bit of a challenge, right? So I married into Patty's family. And if, we'll say 1 o'clock is still the time to eat lunch, that could move to 1:05, depending on when everybody gets there.
Oh, so it's different.
So it was different. Yeah, the time is still the same, but the expectation around it was so different because my mother-in-law, and I love her dearly, there was an expectation that you got there at 1 o'clock. Well, for Patty and I, and at the time with just Melissa, that was pretty easy to do. Patty's brother Mark and Vicky have 3 little boys. Impossible to get there on time. And so they never were. And we'll be spending the weekend with them, so Mark and Vicky, I love y'all. Right? But I think about when we're sitting in the living room and everybody's looking at their watches and it's counting down to 1 o'clock, my mother-in-law would just start feeling this anxiety, and it would go from anxiety to frustration to anger, because she had prepared the meal to be served at 1 o'clock.
And she's probably feeling some disrespect, for that, right? Because people were running late and didn't, she'd done all the work,
Right. So there'd been this preparation, for this meal, and she was a great cook, and it was always well done. But then I think about the other side of it, Mark and Vicky with a van with 3 boys.
Right, exactly. Got to look at that side.
Looking at the clock. They've just had a big meal at her family's house, so now they're trying desperately to get from Frisco to South Garland at 1 o'clock. And I've got to believe that in that van at 10 minutes to 1 and they're 20 minutes out, the anxiety that they were feeling.
Right.
Because there was an expectation on them. And unfortunately, it played out holiday after holiday after holiday. So I think we can do ourselves and our families a favor by setting expectations, and instead of being so much about Thanksgiving, but to have an element of grace giving in there as well.
Right.
Right. Let's offer some grace for people, because it's a family gathering. Let's get together. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy the meal. Let's be thankful for all of our blessings.
Right.
And to manage those expectations. And I think there's a group out there, and I'm not going to say it's covert ops or anything like that, but honestly, if you binge watch 24 or 48 or 72 hours of the Hallmark Channel, you're gonna get this expectation that, oh, I can do that. And so they have these incredible tables of food and decorations, and all the family just loves each other. And that can put an unrealistic expectation on us, I think, that we can live up to that.
Yeah, I don't want to, I know everybody's got questions, but this works really well right here. I know that I used to make my my grandmother used to make my relatives mad because she wanted to work the holiday around my schedule. I was in television, so I had real odd hours. Right. And so she goes, well, let's wait till Lisa gets here and then we'll do it. And they're like, no, we're going to have, Thanksgiving dinner at this time and Lisa can have a plate when she gets here. And I was like, and I was always the peacemaker. Right. So there has to be a peacemaker. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, you don't do this around me. Please don't do this around me. Y'all go ahead and I'll get there when I can get there. So I think there has to be some, peacemaking. Somebody has to just try to maneuver that instead of like demand. Don't hold your ground and demand and say, yeah, y'all need to wait for me. Because that's Do
you know, Lisa? Since we're talking about Thanksgiving, I just want to take this time to say thank you to thank you to Grace Point, for doing our production today. Yeah. And if you need any kind of video production done, don't hesitate to call Connor Lee, and you can reach him at the website is gracepoint.media. He is excellent. Well, they are excellent.
Would you say dot just one more time for me? I love the way you say dot.
gracepoint.media.
Well, Sonny,
I get this all the time.
Sonny, I agree that having compassion for people and their lives, I mean, you don't know what's going on in their world at that moment as to what's causing them to be late or again, like you said, their anxiety of disappointing people as well. And so grace really needs to be given. But there's also family members out there that really know how to push your buttons. And I don't know if they mean it intentionally. We're going to assume not. But however, they can push your buttons. And so how can we deal with some family members that just tend to be the oil to your water?
Right. Yeah. So, and once again, if you don't think you have one in your family, you are it. You are the button pusher. So this is where my response may, I never want to be offensive when I answer a question, but sometimes it might come across that way. But to answer this question, I think you have to be the adult in the room.
Yeah.
Right. At some point in time, it's it's your button. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. You own it. And if Uncle Bob comes in every year and pushes your button, he's coming. Just say, not today. Mm-hmm. Not today.
Right.
You don't. It's my button, and you don't get to push it.
Right.
Right. But it kind of goes back to that setting expectations, right?
Right.
You know that person is coming into your home. You know that may be something that fuels them is to be able to push a button and just see, hey, you're responding. But that makes me think the person who presses that button, we'll call him Uncle Bob. He doesn't stay there. He presses your button, and then he goes in the other room and watches the football game.
Right.
He's moved on.
He's not bothered by it.
He is not bothered by it. Yeah, you're in the kitchen trying to put this meal together, and you're thinking about what he said. Why did he have to do that? And all of a sudden, you're focused on responding to what he has done, and he has moved on. So it's your button. You own your button. Put a T-shirt on if you want to for that day, and put a button on it with a line through it that says no. You don't get to push.
Hey, wouldn't that be fun to wear a T-shirt like that into Thanksgiving?
Don't push the button.
Right.
Don't push my button. You won't push my button.
No, you don't get to push my button today.
Yeah, that's good.
And maybe something else. You just, if you know that person, you invite them to meet you at Starbucks and split a pumpkin muffin with them, but don't invite them to your meal. You just eliminate the button pusher. You don't get to come.
Well, that leads us to Alma's question.
Yes,
the Lord says to love our neighbors as
ma'am.
ourselves.
Yes, ma'am.
And so our family members, I guess, are our neighbors. So what are some ways that we can unconditionally love people the way Jesus did?
You know what? That is such a great question. And in the book of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus gives us the answer. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't give it as a suggestion. He goes, you ought to do this. It's a commandment to love your neighbor as yourself. Mm-hmm. Love your family member as yourself. I want to say, you don't know my family the way I do, for you to make that commandment of me. Because we all have those family members that are just challenges. They just are. And one of the things I go back, y'all probably remember a few years ago, the WWJD bracelet.
Yes.
What would Jesus do?
What would Jesus do, right? We all wore the bracelets and we walked around and go, man, what would Jesus do? I wanted to come up with one that says, what is it that Jesus would not do?
Oh, that's good.
Because
hey, I think you need to patent that.
Okay, I just patented that, right? Because I think I can align with that easier than I can understanding what would Jesus do. I can't do that. I think I know what he might do, but I almost always know what he would not do. Mm-hmm. He would not respond that way. He would not say that to that family member. He would not. And so it almost, it's a commandment. He tells us love your neighbor as yourself.
Indeed.
It's a commandment. Mm-hmm. But it's a great question. How do we do it? That's the bigger question is how do we do it? And I think it just has to be, you just have to embrace it in prayer.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to embrace it in prayer. You have to lift them up to prayer. I have to lift myself up in prayer. Give me the patience. Well, it's almost Galatians 5:22, right? If we can walk in that fruit of the Spirit. Which are the fruits of the Spirit, yeah. If we can walk in the fruit of the Spirit, that gives us, at least equips us with some thoughts and a mindset to walk into that, to have self-control. I'm pretty good at the other 8. Right?
Self-control.
I got the whole peace and patience and kindness. I can do that all day. But when they press the button and they're unloving, I got to have an element of self-control.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, to love the undesirable. Because sometimes you encounter a lot of undesirable people. But we have to love them regardless.
Right.
That's right.
We have to.
That's how Jesus loved, right?
Exactly.
He loved the woman who had how many husbands? I can't remember, 7 or something like that. I mean, he loved those that other people despised.
Right.
So we have to do that. Sometimes we just have to laugh at our relatives sometimes and have grace, because I just have to tell this story that comes to my mind about my grandfather. Well, as my grandfather got older, we would make sure that he got fed first. We would get do his turkey and do all his plate and cut it up for him because he couldn't eat. His teeth were bad, and so we'd sit him down and we'd get his dinner ready for him, and then we would serve ourselves. We would get our dinner, and just as we were about ready to sit at the table to eat our dinner, we would hear my grandfather coming from the other room. Where's dessert? Where's dessert? And we hadn't even started our meal, and there was this cry for dessert. And at that point, you could go, I don't know, I can't remember what my grandmother said to him, but anyway, you could just get upset, or you can just laugh and say, there it is. That's funny. And now my husband thought that was so hilarious that now he's constantly, when we're at a meal, he'll just say that, where's dessert, in honor of my grandfather, Frost Carvel. And so, so that is, sometimes we just have, we just have to kind of laugh about it sometimes. If somebody is struggling, not struggling, but, maybe somebody's just, they bark a lot, or they're loud, or, whatever, if it's not something where they're hurting you or abusing you, or, but it's more just their personality that gets under our skin. True. We just have to laugh about it. Well, we're enjoying this incredible meal. We're going to get back to Sonny and some of the other things about Sonny here in a minute. And thank you so much for all the wisdom. I know you helped a lot of people just with what you said about maybe watching our expectations and honestly, prayer, again, I want to say that prayer, I can do all things through him who gives me strength, and that's Jesus. Right. Prayer is like the most important thing that we can do to give us what we need to handle a situation before we go in. Nehemiah, I think about the book of Nehemiah, and when Nehemiah was asking the king to have a leave of absence to go rebuild the wall in Jerusalem, he literally prayed in the middle of his conversation. So sometimes we have to do that. Like we're in the middle of a conversation. I know where this is going. Yeah. Pray that God will give you the grace and the words. Amen. But anyway, I just want to talk about the food for a minute. That's really important. And I just want to say that this potato dish is to die for. It is delicious. I've been like, I keep going back to that. And your green bean casserole is wonderful, and I love green bean casserole too. But tell us about this dish.
German potatoes. So
it's very good.
It's delicious.
German potatoes in our family is from my grandmother Mary. She came over from Canada when she was in her 20s. But before that, at about 4, she came over from what was Yugoslavia, Croatia area. Anyway, her grandmother, my great-grandma Mary, Mary's a passed-down name. My great-grandmother was Mary, my grandmother's Mary, my aunt is Mary, my sister is Mary. Anyway, so...
it's a Mary family.
It is. We are a Mary family. So German potatoes is what my grandma Mary showed us how to make. And so, you know, potatoes are a very strong staple, and meat wasn't always as plentiful. My great-grandmother was raised during the First World War, and then my grandmother was raised during the Second World War. So, you know, you have to feed a lot of people with a little bit, and so it's how she explained German potatoes. So it's russet potatoes. Think of it as gourmet mashed potatoes, not potato salad. There's no mayonnaise or any of that. But mashed potatoes, so you have the butter and the milk, and you have sautéed onions and pickle relish and mustard. Gotta have that pickly flavor for those Germans.
Yum.
And then of course you have ham in there, and then you just mix it all together. It's served warm. So
I have a question. Are you going to share the recipe, or is it a family recipe?
it is a family recipe. It is not that hard. Make mashed potatoes. Add as much
Everything.
onion, pickles, and ham that you like. My husband prefers it to be a little bit more meaty. I'm used to, and I prefer a little more mustard. You know, so it's really simple. It is, you know, gourmet mashed potatoes, but it reminds me of holidays, like you were talking about when you have your holiday traditions and then you marry somebody and they have theirs. My husband came into ours, and our family did not sit at the table. We had paper plates on the little wicker backers. And I mean, there was my aunt's family, my uncle's family, my other uncle's family, my family, my grandma, my grandpa. So all the kids are hitting the floor with these wicker baskets, you know, plates. You know, we run through the line. There's no dinner time. It's whenever the food's ready. It's like, food's ready. And everybody takes a line. You know, the adults are sitting at the chairs and the sofas, and the kids are on the floor, and we're just like eating it. And Madison comes into my first holiday at our family, and his eyes are just like, it's like chaos. Oh my God, what are they doing? If you've never seen the little cartoon, the Croods, there's this thing where it's an animated film where this boy comes in and he watched them. This family takes down this bird like faster than you can imagine, and he's sitting back looking like, oh my gosh, they're going to eat me next. That's what Madison's eyes look like.
I was going to say, better not be late for that.
Oh my gosh. Then I go to his families, and they all sit at the table.
Oh yeah.
And we're all waiting, and nobody's eating until Mom sits down, and it's quiet, and everybody's chewing, and it's the first time I ever had turnips. I thought they were spicy potatoes. I'm like, these are lovely spicy potatoes.
Oh,
she goes,
wow.
Those are turnips. And I'm like,
I'm not sure I've ever had a turnip either, the more I think about it. Yeah.
Well, I like spicy potatoes. So anyway, but we get to introduce, and I love when you do mix those families. His family has, you know, turnips and cranberry dishes, and you know, we have the German potatoes and other things, and we just, it's amazing to when you finally
come
get
together like that.
when you mix it together.
Blending of foods.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I apologize to you because I called it potato salad.
Oh no! We get it a lot.
You corrected me real quick and go, no, Sonny, it's gourmet. I'm like,
It's like
Yes,
gourmet.
yeah, sure it is.
Do you like it?
I took a first bite and went, that is gourmet.
It's good.
It's really
It is good. I was
tell you,
savoring it.
my kids took it to International Day at school, and everybody's like, "Ew!" And they're like, "Try it, just try it." And it is a little crock pot and stuff like that. It was gone.
Yeah.
It's totally gone. There's just something about the heartiness of it and the flavor of it.
It's delicious.
It is very good. All right, let's turn
Thank you,
it over.
Grandma Mary. Yeah, Alma, why don't you tell
Alma,
I
tell us
have
about-
never had green bean casserole.
Are you kidding me?
I am not joking, because we didn't do that in our house. It's not a thing. We don't, I mean, it was considered expensive.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to buy the onions that go on top. That was
Oh, the
another
French
expense.
onions, yeah.
We just had green beans.
Wow.
So I've never had it with the cream of mushrooms and the whole bakey thing. So
Wow. Well, tell us about it.
Well, when I first got married, God, your story resonates we come from a huge Latino family, and you know, we had of course turkey, but we did have some Spanish stuff like rice and different things. So when I married my husband, we went to his side of the families, and it was, you know, very sit down and, you know, proper. And I remember we were going over to, I saw her making this green bean casserole, and I thought, oh my gosh, we don't make casseroles. Tell me how, you know. And she made it so simple. It was like bada bing, bada bong, bada bong.
Yeah.
And I was like, and when I tasted it, I was like, oh, I am so gonna use this because it's so easy, and it, you know, it was flavorful. So that's how I came with this. So I've had this for probably 30 years. I've been making it for 30 years. Now people in my family are like, oh, you know, now it's like Alma brings a green bean casserole.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like my sister-in-law, that was her thing, you know, when she went on a holiday family gathering, Thanksgiving, she would have to bring a green bean casserole. So that's now my thing to bring. I have a couple other things that I make as well that are really good, but this one's the one that I've made the longest. And it's very easy, super easy. That's why I was like, oh my gosh. I saw her making it, and I was like, you're kidding, that's all you have to do? She was like, yeah, I know, right? So anyway, that's why that is my recipe. And not my recipe, actually, I borrowed it from who knows who. But we've added to it.
Yeah.
We've added a little bit to it. I add a tiny bit of salsa to it only because I like it to have a little bit of
a little kick.
Just a little kick.
Yeah.
I made it my own. So I just always loved the holidays. We always had a lot of people, and we would have more what they call, you know, people would come and they'd sit at the table, and then another wave would come.
Right.
So the waves just kept coming because, you know, we had a large family. But it was, we did eat at a certain time, and whoever was there at that time got to eat first, and then the next, and it was just a lot of fun, and I just really do love just the whole concept of you're there to be thankful and to be family. I think if you kind of put that in perspective, like we're here to just see everybody and to just reconnect, because some of us wouldn't see each other all the time. Yeah. So that's always been, that's how it's worked for us.
Well, I love that. And green bean casserole is one of the ones we do make it. I've made it for years, and I will say when I was growing up, my aunt and uncle were like more like my sister and brother because they were closer to me in age than my mother, and I would always get the relish tray. I said, you know, I finally came to the point where I said, I do not want the relish tray. Do not give me the relish tray. I want to really make something. And so green bean casserole is one of those things I make, and you know, it's so funny, it's so good, but I don't make it other times of the year. I just make it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's so weird. Why is it that we don't make it again? But anyway, I brought the turkey, the turkey, I did not bake the turkey. It's from Market Street, and I'm saying that now because it's pretty good, Market Street turkey. And so, but what I did make last night were these cookies, these pumpkin cookies. And this every time we make these pumpkin cookies, it reminds us of my mother-in-law, Sally, who was a godly woman. She took me right into the family. I don't want to get all teary talking about her, but she used to make these, and she lived in Iowa, and I would go to Davenport, Iowa for the holidays, and she would have these cookies in the Tupperware in the garage. She'd keep them cool in the garage. And Lisa at night would sneak into the garage every night, and I would grab like 2 or 3 of these cookies. Back then I could handle it. Now I can't. You know, if I did that, it'd be all over. But anyway, these are so delicious. It's like a little cake cookie with pumpkin in them, and well, of course, all the bad things like, you know, lard. No, I mean, like, you know, Crisco shortening and, you know, that kind of thing. But they're delicious, and they have like a powdered sugar and brown sugar and butter and milk, icing. Anyway, they are addictive. They're addictive. And but when we make them, you know, it's Sally Worley's pumpkin cookies. We just, you know, it just reminds us of her. And so we always make them at like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And Sally, by the way, had lymphoma cancer, and so 8 years after I met her, she passed away. So that was just a really hard thing for the family, because, you know, this is a woman who was a Stephen minister, and, you know, she was very involved in her church, and and just a very loving, wonderful woman. So we make these in honor of Sally. So let's talk a little bit about thankfulness. I was thankful for her, but I'd love to start with you, Sonny, because we want to hear from you some more.
Okay.
What are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?
Aunt Sally's pumpkin cookies.
Yes.
Yes. Can you pass those by?
I don't think so.
Oh, come on.
Oh, I want to say one thing. I'm sorry, my mouth is full. Please excuse me. I want to say, if you want the recipe, I will share it because, you know, Sally's memory lives on. So just private message me on Facebook and I'll get you the recipe.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's got their one cookie they get, and I'm taking the rest to Galveston with
And
me.
the crew, no, wait, we have to feed the crew too. Right. Grace Point Media needs cookies.
Wow. Well, what am I thankful for? Oh my goodness. You know, I could go down the list of things that I am just thankful for because God's blessed me so much, and I'm aware of that. So I think maybe I'm thankful for being aware of God's blessing on my life and my family. I mean, we've gone through seasons of stuff, and you know, typically when I wake up in the morning, I say, God, thank you for another day, and what would you have me do today?
Right.
And so I'm thankful that today I got another day, and I get to do this. And so, I mean, I'm married so well.
Good person.
I have great family, a great church, involved in doing some, I think, some really neat things for the kingdom. And so I could go on and on, Lisa, ladies, about things I'm thankful for. But it really is about God just giving me another day.
Yeah.
Right.
We take that for granted sometimes.
Wow.
Just especially as you get older. It's like, oh, thank you. I woke up. Thank you so much for that. Another day to serve Him. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What about you, Rosemary?
Oh my, I can just second what you said. I am so grateful to God, you know, for the good things that He has done in my life. About 7 years ago, you know, I got laid off on my job and I opted to retire. But the first 2 years, I was able to take care of my alien husband that since then went to be with the Lord. And after that, God has used me in so many different aspects in ministry where I can lift up the name of Jesus. I mean, I am so grateful to God for my family. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for all the good things, too numerous to mention. But you know what I'm really grateful for? Is for the little things that He does when I least expect it.
Oh, amen. Yeah.
And nobody can get the credit but Him. You know? So I am grateful for today. You know, I'm grateful for, I didn't cook, but at least I'm grateful for everything on the table. I'm munching that and I'm eating that. I'm grateful for Words of Promise.
Oh, thank you.
You know,
And we're
I'm
grateful for you. Grateful for this,
I'm grateful
everyone
for
at this
my
table.
team, you know?
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Joy and Company, you know, the Dallas Dream Team. I'm just so grateful.
Yes.
You know, I can write a book about gratefulness.
Right.
And God is so good, you know, isn't He? I mean, He loves us so much that He hears the desires of our hearts.
Yes.
And so many times I've seen that happen in my own life, and I know you guys have as well, that He hears that silent little thing that you have in your heart that you want so badly, and then He provides it.
Yes.
And so, you know, that is just out of His love for us, and I'm thankful for that love that He gives us, right?
And you know, sometimes, Lisa, just a second, sometimes in me, I find thank you, Jesus, should be a bigger word. You know, thank you is so small.
Yeah.
I want to say something bigger. You know, but He said, in everything, just give thanks, Rosemary.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Rosemary, I know you're a thankful person.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Lynnette, what do you think?
Well, obviously my family, during this really turbulent time in my life right now, I'd have to give thanks to my husband, Madison, who has kept me sane and stable and healthy to the best of his ability. But like Rosemary, what I'm really thankful for is there was a huge rift in our family, and if it wasn't for the Lord, that allowed us not only to experience forgiveness in our family, but compassion and understanding for each other, we wouldn't have holidays together. Wow. It could have easily been a very fractured family with some really hurt people. But because of my brother who reaches out to us, I was just talking to him the other night as he's heading off to D.C. or Germany or wherever he's going. But he always checks in with his sisters, and he checks in with his parents, and then my younger sister, who just is the most generous person you have ever met in your life. And then our parents. I mean, it wasn't an easy life, and there was some pretty bad mistakes. But they owned them, and they worked through them, and we were able to get to a point of forgiveness so that my children have grandparents, and my children has an amazing aunt and an amazing uncle. And you know, my sister-in-law bringing in her family, and it's just blessings when the Lord takes the hardships and He turns them into such strength, such loyalty, such devotion in our family. Yeah. It's amazing. That's what I'm grateful for.
Beautiful. I love that restoration in the family. That's a great big thing.
We're talking about, you know, German potatoes. It's food for the soul. When we get together as a family and we get to talk and be together, that's what it's about.
Awesome. I love that.
So good.
What about you, Alma?
I'm thankful to be part of your grandfather's club or dessert.
It's right there. It's right there. Pumpkin cookies.
There actually is. I think there actually are people that are always thinking that when they sit down. Dang, that dessert looks good. Like, you know, they could have it first. But
Right.
I stopped talking and immediately put it in my mouth.
I know. Exactly.
So, you know, a lot of it, like what you said, you know, we've gone through so much restoration in our life. You know, we've had things happen, and God's turned it around, and I really am so thankful that He has had the grace to do that for our families. In particular, many years ago, I didn't really come. I kind of, my mom and my dad, they divorced, and so when I was very young, so I really did not even know the concept of a family besides our small family of 7. But that was it. I mean, we didn't really have like cousins and different people. So my mom adopted, of course, friends, and it was years later that, you know, I got to know my dad's side of the family. So I've been very grateful for that because, you know, it was a restoration of that, kind of like that branch that I kind of didn't really know. And it was a cowboy family. It was an amazing family, good people, and I'm very thankful for that. It was a gift.
The heritage, yeah.
Yeah, I just, that didn't need to happen, but it was kind of like the Lord said, you know what, let me reveal to you something that I think is going to help you. Because, you know, as a girl that, you know, grow up with a dad, you're kind of always, or for me anyway, I was curious, like, who is he and where is he, and, you know, those types of things. Right. So I got to really meet that side of the family, and my extended family. You know, my family now is grown from our family of 7 to, I mean, there's hundreds now. I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I lost.
Do you have room enough for your family?
But I'm saying, like, now that we've have like my dad's side of the family, and we've got to meet my mom's side of the family, it's like there's hundreds of us now, and I think that's just given me that place, like, oh, you know, I belong to something bigger than who we were.
Yes.
And of course, you know, the Lord through all of that always told me, well, you know, I'm your dad. You know, so that was the most amazing thing for me, is that He always let me know that, you know, I'm going to watch after you, I'm going to take care of you, don't worry, you know, like he said that, you know, He's the father to the fatherless, so He was always my dad, and I mean, how beautiful is that, right?
Yes.
I mean, how better dad can you have? So, that's what I'm thankful for.
Yeah, amen. I'm thankful for our daddy, right?
Amen.
And Rosemary
Amen.
also was fatherless, and I know you had
I've had a lot of fathers, actually.
Yes, you have a lot of fathers now.
I have my biological father, my dad who raised me, my father-in-law, my heavenly father, my husband who's an amazing father.
Love that.
I have not been lacking in the father
surplus
part.
of fathers.
Yes,
You know?
takes a village for this girl.
Yeah. Well, you know, I am really, really thankful for my family as well, because, you know, I grew up with a very ill mom, no father, and it was just her and me for, you know, I did have my grandmother and my aunt and uncle and stuff, but they had their own families, and so it was kind of a difficult, you know, life growing up, and so I'm just so thankful to have a husband and have a new daughter-in-law this year, 2 sons, and I have a spiritual daughter, Laura, and now she's got 2 babies, and so that's great, but I'm really, really, here's the thing, I'm really thankful for my health, because this year I had a scare, as you guys know, and I had a marker, elevated marker for an autoimmune disease, and the one that came up was something called scleroderma. And so every time I said something to somebody about, you know, I might have scleroderma, they go, oh, you know, that's terrible. And one person came up to me, a friend of mine, said, I have a friend with that, and her hands are like this. And so, you know, just you don't do that when you're talking to people about these things. But so I prayed a bold prayer. I prayed that I had 2 months stretch before I'd go from my doctor to the rheumatologist. So I believe God heals. Jehovah Rapha. He heals. He's used me in physical healing with other people. I thought, well, Lord, it's my turn. Will you heal me? And so I prayed that he would heal me by the time I got to the rheumatologist and went through the blood work there. And so I prayed that bold prayer. People did lay their hands on me, and so for healing. And so sure enough, I started to feel better too. You know, in that stretch, I started to feel better because I had felt inflamed and, you know, like on fire almost like the heater was on the seats and it wasn't, you know, in the car. And so sure enough, he did all the blood work. He ran me through every test. He did some physical stuff. He goes, well, you know, it doesn't feel like you've got scleroderma. And he goes, but we're going to run the test. Sure enough, normal.
Wow.
All the blood work was normal.
Praise
and
God.
I'm praising God for that because he is a healer.
Yes,
now I know, I don't want to say, I know he doesn't always say yes to healing.
Right.
But here's the thing. He can't heal unless we believe he can.
Amen.
And so I am so thankful for that. I am thankful for that. You cannot imagine how thankful I am for that. Because my word was deliver at the beginning of the year. And I always ask for a word to live by every year. And it was deliver, and I didn't understand that word. Why is it deliver? You know, I've been delivered from my past. You know, I've been delivered from some, you know, why is it deliver? And I kept wondering, well, he was telling me at the beginning of the year, I want to deliver you from disease by the end of the year. You just don't know it yet. And so he knew what the word meant. And so thankful to him for the healing. Amen. Thankful, honestly, I know everybody at this table can say we are thankful that he saved us. I mean, really, that God literally scooped down and introduced himself to us. He did with me. We didn't grow up in the church. And a friend just led me to Christ one day. And basically, you know, we all believe that Jesus lived the life we should have led. He died the death we should have died. He rose he was crucified, died, and was buried, and he rose on the 3rd day, and those who believe in him will have eternal life. And we all believe that. We all believe that he's God's son. And so I know it's not the popular thing nowadays, but I just want to get that out there, and I felt like I was supposed to say something. Right, everyone? This is something we're all thankful for. Amen. And it's changed our lives.
True.
I don't know where I'd be. Where would we be without this?
Right.
True.
I might be dead. I honestly think, you know, because I had a lot of, you know, past that was not good, and self-esteem was low, all those things, you know, because of my past and being fatherless. And I don't know if I'd be sitting at this table right now.
Yep.
Wow.
And Sonny, you have a book, Him Changes Everything, which is very inspirational, well written, but it talks about change, obviously. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be here a while.
Well, remember we told you our time's running out.
Well,
Yeah, no, we've actually got about 15 minutes.
Okay. Our safe word is gravy, so if you hear gravy come up, I'm done. Right? So it's a really interesting story because I used to say this, and God said, you got to stop saying that because we all have a story to write. I used to tell people, I'm not an author.
Yeah.
But we are all authors.
That's right.
We all have a story to share. And God just, through some interesting events, which started with my inability to type or text. I was sending Patty a text, and I had typed or texted the word impression, but I had put the H in front of it, so it came back redlined, you know, under it, impression. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool, actually. It struck me at that moment. That's kind of cool, impression. And it just for that entire day at work, it just kept playing over in my mind. And so I developed, you know, some more words around it, and then and Patty, my wife, was so encouraging because she knows I'm not a writer. In fact, when I was in school, she did all, I think, in full disclosure, that's one of the reasons I married her, because she could type over 100 words a minute. And I had papers
all
to
your
do.
papers. Back when we didn't have computers, right?
It's called a typewriter.
Yes.
Right? So anyway, she was just very encouraging about, man, this must be a God thing for you to feel inspired to go sit in there and to type and to write. And so it was God inspired, absolutely. And at the time, my mom her health was really declining, and it was interesting because even when her mind started to change and started to falter a little bit, she would always ask about the book. Every time we'd go to visit her, we'd be sitting there talking about football or whatever, and she'd go, "How's the book?" And I'm like, it's coming. And so over the months, it would just come up, I won't say every time I went to visit her. And so she was in the hospital, and she had pneumonia, and she had all these wires on her and stuff. And while we're sitting there talking, she just says, "How's the book?" Mm-hmm. I'm like, "Oh, Mom."
It's kind of like a baby when they say, "How's the baby?" Because I got 9 months of this.
I know, right? And so my wife, and we got in the car, and Patty says, "I don't care what else you do. When we get home, print the book. Just print it. It doesn't matter if you just print it out and we put it in a spiral. Just print it." And I thought, okay. Anyway, in the world of internet, I can Google, and all of a sudden I found a group that prints books. Mm-hmm. So I went out there, and all of a sudden, now I need a book cover. What's that going to look like? So me and PowerPoint in about 30 minutes created a really ugly book cover. And it was really interesting because then you get all the way through it, and at the end it says, how many do you want to order? And I was like, well, I'll get one. But then the price was like, for 25, it's about the same price. So I said, I'll get 25, and that covers everybody's Christmas presents, right? Because everybody's getting a book. And that following Sunday, we left church, and Patty and I drove, which was our ritual, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. We're at Mom, we're visiting. And we get in there. She's still in the hospital. She's still got all the wires on her. And we're talking, and I told Patty, I said, I'm not going to show her the book. Mm-hmm. If it comes up, which it probably will, then I'll hand it to her.
Oh, wow.
And I am not kidding you. We were sitting there, and I had it down here, now I'm anticipating, come on, Mom, ask for the book.
Yeah, it's like, and were you hinting?
No,
what good books have you read, Mom?
Yeah, right. That's funny. I had that thought, but I didn't say it. But at some point in time, she goes, "How's the book?" And it was one of the proudest moments of my life.
Yeah.
I handed my mom this book. And she had this death grip on it. She'd look at the cover, which reminded it was ugly. And she would just open to a random page, and she'd look at that, and then she'd look up at me, and you could tell she was like, "How did this happen?" He barely passed English, in 5th grade. So, so it was just such an incredible moment for me to be able to give my mom a book that it's about him. It's all about him.
Yes.
Yeah, amen.
And how him changes everything.
Yeah.
And it's a book about a woman who lived her life in that. Really, when I talk about stories about me, it's a reflection of my mom and dad and the generations that got me where I am. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
Well, I know how you feel. When I wrote my book, I'm dyslexic, so writing isn't my first desire to do. And when I finally got mine done and gave it to my mom, she's a reader, so I expected her to read it. That was lovely. But my dad is not a reader. And he read it cover to cover. And I was like, wow, Dad, like you read the book. And he was very proud. Anyway, those moments can really get you. But we heard that Rosemary came from Lubbock. It's a 5-hour drive. You called it God's country. I think if God has cotton fields and barrenness, it would be. But you obviously loved Lubbock, and that's where everything kind of changed in your life. So tell us about how your encounter with Jesus when you were at church there. I think it was called Flint Avenue Church.
Flint Avenue Baptist Church, probably about the size of this kitchen. I think
those are the best churches.
I think all 15 of us were there that day. No, it was a great little church. Brother Giles was the pastor, and we were in church Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday. We were in church all the time. So I was very accustomed to being in church, and I knew the ritual. I knew that when they sang "Just As I Am," it's about over.
Yeah.
I'm fixing to be outside again, right? But there was something really special about that day. I had seen people go up and talk about our salvation, right?
Right.
That was my day. I mean, I was standing there, and nothing different about the church, about the message. Probably, I think I might have listened to it. I don't know. But the Holy Spirit came upon me, and it could only be the Holy Spirit, because my heart was pounding outside my chest.
Yes.
And it's like I knew I needed to go up front. It's like all of a sudden Brother Giles was just staring at me, and it was weird. I didn't say a word to my dad, but he just touched my shoulder. Wow. He didn't push me. He just touched my shoulder. And it was, so, and man, when I think about it, it's like it just happened yesterday. It was that real. It's like my feet weren't even moving. I was just kind of, floating down there. And I got down there, and it was it's not going to make, it was such a heavy lightness. Does that make sense? I mean, because I felt it, but it was so light and so refreshing, and I just knew that I knew. Yeah. Right? You just know that you know that you know. So, man, 13 years old.
I remember that happened to me too, with the heart pounding at church.
Right.
I'd prayed the prayer, but I hadn't made what they call a public profession of my faith.
Right.
And that's when it's like, then they asked us to come down. It's like, oh! Yeah. And so I went down there and publicly professed Jesus in front of that entire congregation. A little bit bigger than your church, I think, but still, I mean, it's a calling.
Yeah, I mean, at Black Forest Chapel with Pastor James Seal and his wife Eva Lynn, everybody's salvation story is a little bit different. You're like, you flew down there. I was like cement legs. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, am I ever going to make it there? But that lightness that you say, once you turn it over and you give it. Now, a lot of us, I might, you leave it at the cross, and then you turn around and then you pick it back up. And
oh, my goodness.
I mean, so you have to keep doing it. But so yeah, I mean, salvation is so different. So it's.
I think it'd be funny if my mom and dad were sitting there, because they'd say, "Well, you immediately went outside and started throwing dirt clods at your sister." So I was saved, but I hadn't changed that much.
It takes a while. It's a process.
Right.
Wow, awesome. Yeah. Sonny, God used you at a very early age in that childhood church, and tell us a little bit about Rhonda. Because I know it was the teaching at that great church, who got you to where you are.
Yeah, so, oh my goodness, how can I say this quickly about, I've had people challenge me, and anyway, so I was teaching 6th grade Sunday school at our first church.
Yes.
That we went to church together, and I started teaching 6th grade Sunday school because they couldn't get anybody else to do it. And they felt like I was probably big enough that I could survive the 6th graders. So,
that's usually how that works.
Right. Yeah. So I went not really knowing or feeling qualified to teach, but I started teaching 6th grade. And I think Rhonda and my other Melissa, I think they were probably in 3rd grade. So I'd probably been teaching for a couple of years before they got to that class. Anyway, so Rhonda's in the classroom, and the story is that y'all talk about fathers, right? Now there's been maybe some things there. We had no idea what was going on at Rhonda's home. She would come to church and be in Sunday school and go to all the youth events, but every time she came, she had to be in my group, almost to the point of being annoying. And she says, "Dad, I wish you'd quit saying that." It's just the truth. She was annoying because we'd go on youth retreats, and we'd have the boys over here and the girls over there. Rhonda would want to be in my group. And there was just a connection there. And so over the years that God began to really water that and nurture that relationship. Anyway, so we, fast forward a few years, it came to the point where she and her mom, her biological mom, had to move out of the house. And so the youth pastor at our church called me one Sunday night and said, "You need to come up here because they've asked you to come up." And it was Rhonda and her biological mom. So I went up there. So fast forward, anyway, so Rhonda went through some really, really hard times. But I sat down with Melissa and Patty one evening when it had gotten it had gotten very serious. And I sat down with Patty and Melissa, and I said, we have to either be all in, or we have to tell Rhonda we can't do this. Because she's depending on us. She's using me on her HIPAA forms. I mean, I am becoming elevated in her need, right? And so when Patty and Melissa looked at me like I was crazy. Well, what are you talking about? Of course we're all in. Now then, fast forward several years, she's our daughter. You know, for many years I would introduce her as our pseudo daughter or our spiritual daughter.
Yeah.
Like that. But she's our daughter.
Right.
She calls us mom and dad. Her children, my precious grandchildren now, who call us Grandma and Grandpa. That's kind of cool.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right? My son-in-law Bill, he only knows Rhonda's, that we're her family. And so God gave us, and Melissa and Rhonda, they're sisters. They talk to each other as sisters. And so God reconstructed our family. And we didn't know what was going on, but now we look back, and at that time, there was a purpose in her annoying me, right? To a point now where my family looks different because of it. Right?
That's beautiful, and you're open to it. Because I have a spiritual daughter as well. I probably should just call her my daughter, because she really is.
Yeah.
And the kids have embraced her as a sister, so I understand that totally. We only have a couple of minutes, so Alma's got a quick question for you. But
well, that is a great story about Rhonda, and that she's your other daughter, and Melissa, that you reconnected with in a powerful way. So how did that happen?
Well, it's interesting how when you write a story about your family, the story never ends. You can finish the book, and you can print the book, but the story never ends.
Absolutely.
It's constantly changing. So referencing Melissa in Him Changes Everything is about a different relationship. I mean, it was one that I didn't understand, but at the core of it is that she needed me, and I was trying to fix her. She didn't need me to fix her. She needed me to hug her. She needed me to embrace her and love her through this season. And so God just, man, He redeemed us. Now then, fast forward again, and it's probably another book at some point in time, but she got into another relationship, and I'll just, if I can be so bold as to say, it was hell. It was horrible, 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 horrible. But God, once again, is that persistent, always pursuing. And the great news for us is that Melissa never lost her faith.
that's good, yeah.
Never lost her faith. And so she woke up one day and said, after 5 years, I'm done with this. And she walked back in our front door. She called us and said, hey, can I come by? Knowing that we're about to leave. And she walked in. And it was, when I tried to explain what I felt like, it was as if watching her being birthed 20-some odd years ago. Because she walked in, coming into a place that she knew that she would be loved and reborn. And the great news, after all of that happened, I got to baptize her at Gateway one morning.
Oh, wow. Great.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Amazing. And I'll just end it with, if anybody ever tells you that God doesn't do miracles anymore, please have them call me.
Amen. Yeah.
Because He is, now then, she is her own Hallmark story. I'm going to leave it with this. It's a little bit of a teaser. She's married to one of the finest men I have ever met in my life. Just a godly man, just a great story of pursuit, the right way, God's way. And now they live in Kongsberg, Norway. Yes. We talk to her every day. She's probably watching right now. She's like, who would put you on? I'm just like kidding. No, so, but God still does miracles, ladies.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yes, He does. And we are all walking miracles, really, in many ways, in more ways than one. Thank you so much, Sonny Gann, for joining us. You can see how he's going to be a great counselor. He has his master's in counseling. You're working on the training right now,
I'm
correct?
getting my state licensing so I can do it officially and charge people. This is billable. No, I'm
Yes.
just kidding.
Well, your check's in the mail, Sonny. If you want to reach Sonny, you can email him at sonny.gann, Gann, @gmail.com.
And we would love for you to connect with us here at Pearls of Promise. And you can check us out. Lisa and I do write the weekly blog. You can find us at pearlsofpromiseministries.com. And there you'll find the books that we've written. And the Day Came, again, a family story that the book is done, but there's still some more. Lisa's book, Knowing the Father. And Alma's book, Nui Saves the Day, is also, all of the books are also on Amazon, so they're easy to get.
And I just want to put a pitch for the Bible study, Knowing the Father. We're just finishing it up at a church in Louisville, Texas. They love it. And if you want me to teach this at your church, it's just a 6-week study designed to draw you into a more intimate relationship with God as Father. I'm happy to do it. We'll just have to get it on the calendar. So Knowing the Father is available.
And we'd also like for you to love Pearls of Promise on our Facebook page, and also follow us on Twitter at Pearls of Promise.
And listen to our radio show, Time to Dream. So this is a time where we advertise everything. It's on a bunch of different platforms, but if you want to hear all the past shows, you can go to timetodream.org.
Well, thank you again, Connor and Grace Point Media, for live streaming. And if you want to get a hold of him, you go to gracepoint.media for your video production needs.
And we'll be back. We're going to take a little break for Thanksgiving. We'll be back on December the 11th. And that one we're going to be talking about holiday traditions, and we're also going to bring on Cher Ewing. She's an artsy, crafty type, and so this is going to be like stressful for me. We talked about stress. Going into a craft project is very stressful for me. But she's going to teach us how to do a real fun holiday craft. And so don't miss that one, December 11th. So in the meantime, we are just ordinary girls
who God turned into pearls.
And Sonny's an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
He's also a pearl as well. We're going to have to figure that out when a man's a guest on the show.
Thank you.
So thank you, Sonny, again.
Thank you again for letting me participate.
Yeah.
It's our pleasure.
It was great to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.